He infringes my art. I shut down his print shop and ruined his career, by user Weary Butterscotch 775. A little backstory, I'm an online artist and this took place when I was in my early 20s. There was a popular artist who calls himself a professional and works in the industries. I used to look up to him. Let's call him Zach. Lately, I noticed how Zach's art looked eerily too familiar to a piece of media I've seen before. So I looked up the images and found it too matched up to his art. He was directly referencing official art and profiting off of it by selling it on his print shops online. He didn't make any effort to make the reference detaches from the original piece. I confronted him about it, sending a detailed message not to do that and the possible consequences. I have seen artists in real life who are sued for over $100,000 and to the extent in jail for doing what they did. Instead of being professional and mature about it, he lashed out at me and took it to social media telling me how wrong I was to falsely accuse him since artists use references and how I could get sued for libel. I was dumbfounded at how clueless he was, not comprehending what I was talking about. He included my username, which my blog had links to my contacts, my emails, Facebook page, art accounts, and Instagram. His fans, including his group of friends, joined in sending me downright horrific messages to me. I had panic attacks resulting from the pure backlash of his enormous fan base. I constantly received hate mail, telling me how horrible I am as a person, how shitty my art was, and to the extent of death threats for almost an entire month. The last straw that broke the camel's back was when he directly referenced off of my art and made money off of it. I didn't know how to find a lawyer and I feel hopeless and angry that I couldn't do anything about it. Later it hit me, if I can't do it, then maybe another artist can, or anyone holds the copyright. The last time I remember, Zach never credited any of these artists for his references. I looked into the art he referenced and examined each official company matching Zach's art. I used Google search to find anyone working for a said company and voila! I found a staff member for a branch in a different continent. Let's call him Cody. I contacted Cody's Facebook and tipped him about Zach's activity through Messenger. I uploaded and sent a copy of their art and Zach's art for comparison. Cody just simply replied, "We'll contact our legal team, thanks for the notice." Another week passes by and during the time he constantly posts to every damn thing I post about in my art blog. And then silence. I checked, his print shop was removed. His response to my message was taken down from his social media. He stops talking to his friends publicly. Days later a fan was asking about him and he responded how he is no longer friends with them cause they are very toxic hypocrites. One of his former group of friends contacted my friend and cried about how awful a bully he was. Of course, my friend didn't care. It was the most glorifying feeling I have ever rejoiced. This would have been avoided if he at least heeded my warnings. How he handled the situation was not professional at all. About 5 years later I had been informed that apparently, he has a tough time getting back into the industry after there were allegations of his past copyright infringement. The biggest one was having a lawsuit with the big company Cody worked for. Didn't go above and beyond? I'll delete everything that was above and beyond, by user NotICat890. Names changed for privacy. The original owner of the business I worked for was amazing. I'll call him Larry. He cared about every employee and realized how much we helped the company with our respective positions. He had even let me go negative on my sick time once when I was hospitalized for a week following a double pulmonary embolism with the agreement that I would work the time back, and I did. Just painting a picture of how wonderful Larry was as our boss. Larry finally retired after 45 years of running the business and sold it to his son, who I'll call Eric. Most people know how bad an idea that is, but Larry thought his son could handle it. He couldn't at first, but that's another story. Eric thought I wasn't doing enough during working hours, office job, dealing with inventory coming into a retail store, but what he failed to realize was that, since I worked up there for 6 years and got familiar with the work, I was really efficient at the job. So much so that I had collected more responsibilities each year. Larry was one of the main people pushing for me to take on more each year, with immediate raises every time something was added. Eric didn't have the same mentality. Eric fired me for being inactive for too long during the day, and another reason which isn't important here, also another story for another time. So I was really active for my last 3 days with deleting everything I had created for the company. It was all above and beyond work, so since I didn't ever go above and beyond, they didn't deserve to keep it. It was signs for products, pictures gathered for advertising, vendor contact information, a program I designed to keep organized and on time for invoices, and a manual I had typed up on how to do my job. They had an old version of my job instructions, but by that time they were practically obsolete, especially with all my extra duties collected over the years. In the 2 years I've been gone, they've had at least 8 people hired for my position who quit within a couple months. I keep getting updates every few months from one of my friends in that office. Edit to address some questions and concerns. I did these things off the clock except for some advertising images that were for past promotions and no longer valid. I never had to sign anything saying my intellectual property became theirs. Neither the job description nor handbook had anything about intellectual property either. Edit 2, here are the 2 other stories. Other reason I was fired,
https://www.reddit.com/r/anti-work/comment/1077I/discrimination_will_by_medium=app and UTM_source=share. Eric couldn't handle it at first. https://www.reddit.com/r/anti-work/comments/10fo/if_you_it_can't_it_handle_it_it_android_app and UTM_source=share. Update, you never had your car, The Revenge, by user Whipsolo. Alright, so last week I posted these events in r/entitled people and part 2 100% belongs here. For a TLDR to catch you up, Chad decided to talk a bunch of misogynist crap at my wife in the pits at the drag strip. He challenged the wife to a race for $10,000, I retorted slips or admit you're a pussy. Chad put his slip up and lost to a girl. Chad then decided to assault me, threatened to call police and was screaming we were stealing his car. Later Chad attempted to sue us because to build the race car he took out a second mortgage on his home of at least $100,000. You see, the entitled douche, Chad Chaddington III, decided to file a frivolous lawsuit which cost me $500 to have my lawyer get it thrown out before week's end. However, you see, Monday we filed our own paperwork. First we started with PPOs for both myself and wife. We then filed a defamation suit that also seeks legal fees as well as missed income due to time spent at the courts. The suit in total was for $18,000. I own 4 businesses and make on average $1,380 an hour, and the wife makes around $300 an hour. Today we went into court over the PPOs. Wife and I decided to take the GTO to court, and as I parked in the parking lot, I saw Chad getting out of his car directly across from us. Chad looked like steam should be coming from his ears, but he did manage to not say a word. After about 70 minutes the court called our cases for the PPOs. Chad wanted a hearing. Through the hearing the whole story was told and the judge was very interested in Chad's physical aggression and threats. Chad also brought up the fact that the courts threw out his lawsuit for theft and stated he's going to lose his house because he cannot get justice. The judge called for a recess and returned 15 minutes later, with the now dismissed lawsuit filed by Chad. According to Chad's lawsuit, he was forced into the bet via threats of violence. After about 15 minutes of Chad explaining how he was in fear for his life as I threatened him repeatedly, it was now my attorney's turn to speak. You see, on all of my cars except the Honda, not only do I have dash cams, but I have Blackva systems which record inside and outside audio along with 270 degrees around the car, and the interior. We had this footage available in court. The footage directly contradicted Chad's sob story. After the video finished playing, the judge ruled for 3-year PPOs, restraining orders, against Chad for both myself and my wife, a $5,000 settlement, and he found Chad in contempt of court for perjuring himself. Chad was sentenced to 7 days in county lockup and a $3,000 fine for his lies. Please fellas, leave the misogyny in the 1950s. Burning vengeance, kind of long, but I promise it's worth it. Repost by user CNMacleod1138. Most cordial greetings to everyone. I've been enjoying the r/entitled, r/revenge, and r/malicious compliance vids Dark Fluff makes on YouTube, and I think I might have a VID-worthy submission. Even if it's not, I think a lot of people will get a real kick out of this one. I originally posted this in r/dark fluff, but I figure if anyone has permission to repost it, the OP, me, does, so here goes. First, some context. There's this product called Pure Cap, which is basically 100% capsaicin oil, the stuff that makes hot peppers hot. It has a Scoville rating of 500,000 units per drop but no flavor, making it ideal for spicing up food without affecting the way it tastes. Putting enough of it, usually only a few drops, on any food can make it almost completely inedible to anyone who is not a total fire mouth, i.e. Pepperiad.
It's available on Amazon for about $30 USD per 2 ounces, but a little goes a very long way. That's why it's sold in an eyedropper bottle. Now here's the good part. In the early 2000s my brother, Rick, was working in a call center that had a break room with a fridge/freezer, a microwave, and a small sink. He didn't take his own lunch often, usually leftovers from the previous night's dinner, maybe 3 or 4 times a month, but every time he did it would get stolen. The first couple times he didn't mention it, just in case it was a simple mistake and the person was too embarrassed to own up. However, the third time he remembered the military axiom once is happenstance, twice is coincidence, but thrice is enemy action and reported the thefts to his supervisor, Don, and the head of human resources, Dolly, every time after. However, they said that without proof there was nothing they could do. No cameras in the break room. And so this is where my plan hatched. One night I made a roast beef dinner with potatoes and carrots, cooked all day in a crock pot with onion soup mix on top. Believe me, it was fork tender and delicious. I also made a nice salad to go with it, and put away a complete dinner serving for him to have for lunch on his next shift. The next night he came home and said his lunch had been stolen again, so the next morning I made a really deluxe roast beef sandwich, thickly sliced with lettuce, pickles, cheddar, and mayonnaise on an 8-inch hoagie roll so whoever was stealing would think they'd hit the jackpot 2 days in a row. I also loaded the roast with pure cap, like 4 droppers worth, about 30 to 40 drops on the meat alone, and made sure it was all completely absorbed before closing the sandwich so the roast looked really juicy. I even mixed some into the mayo and put some more on the bread, because bread tends to downplay the fire a bit. Rick came in about halfway through the pure cap application and asked what the hell I was doing. I looked back with an evil grin and said, "Oh, just making a little present, wink, for the lunch thief." My grin was instantly copied on his face, because he was the one who had originally told me about the stuff after he'd used it to prank a former roommate, so he knew what was going to happen. Then he went to finish getting ready for work. I could hear him chuckling the whole time. I even gave him $5 on his way out because that one sandwich shop with the green and yellow logo was only a couple blocks from his job and still had their $5 foot-long promotion going. When Rick got home that night, his grin was even bigger as he related the events. He was between calls only a couple hours into his shift when suddenly there's this god-awful howling from the break room. Everyone who wasn't on a call right then, including Dolly, rushed in there to see the sandwich on the table with one bite taken out of it, the half-chewed bite laying right next to it, and Don at the sink desperately trying to wash the capsaicin inferno out of his mouth, not knowing that water only makes it worse. Don was ostensibly friendly and reasonable, so he was well liked by his people. I guess he thought that would make some sort of difference, because he pointed directly at Rick and yelled, "He tried to kill me," then went back to trying to put out his mouth fire. With water. Dolly picked up the bag the sandwich had been in, which clearly had Rick's name in big red letters in his handwriting. She looked at Rick. Rick looked back with a completely straight face and shrugged. So Dolly grabbed the guy by the arm and dragged him to her office with him streaming tears and snot the whole way. By this time the water had sent the pure cap into real overdrive, and Don had to just stand there and burn while Dolly and the call center's manager, Bill, dressed him down for about 15 minutes, finally ending it with his termination for theft. The guy could hardly even speak from the burning, tears, and runny nose that sandwich caused, and besides that he had no defense anyway because he'd just outed himself for stealing an employee's lunch. The company had a zero-tolerance policy about that kind of thing, especially when higher UPS steal from the people they manage. Rick was back at his station and on a call when Bill personally came over smiling and said that Dolly wanted to see him when he was free. Rick gave a thumbs up knowing fully well why she wants to see him, took the call to its conclusion, and went to Human Resources. Here's how he described the encounter. "Rick, you wanted to see me, ma'am?" "Dolly, yes, I do. First, being the aggrieved party, you're not in trouble. Second, what the hell did you put in that sandwich?" "Rick, actually, my brother made it." He pulls the bottle of pure cap out of his pocket and sets it on Dolly's desk with a smile. Dolly picks up the bottle and reads the ingredients list, which literally just says capsaicin oil, 500,000 Scoville units per drop, bursts out laughing, and hands it back. "Rick, there was kind of really a lot of that in the meat. And the mayo. And the bread." Dolly, still giggling, "You know what? Go ahead and take your lunch break now, and when you get back we'll talk about making you that section's supervisor." So he did. Rick still says that was the most emotionally satisfying sub sandwich he's ever had. He declined the super position, though, so they promoted a different person from that section, a really nice lady, Carrie, who had also witnessed the sandwich debacle. The whole office laughed about it for weeks afterward, and every new hire for at least a year got to hear the story, as both entertainment and warning. I smiled about it for a month, and both Rick and I rarely miss a chance to tell people about PureCap and its potential applications regarding lunch thievery. I never did hear anything else about Don, but I imagine getting hired anywhere else, not to mention being promoted to a managerial position, was fairly difficult with that huge red flag for theft on his record. Anyway, that's my story. If it does get into one of Dark Fluff's vids, I'm hoping for r/ProRevenge, but if anyone thinks it might fit better in a different category, please don't hesitate to suggest, as this is a copy of my first Reddit post ever. I hope you enjoyed it. Edit. Today I just asked bro about the incident, and he's like, oh, I forgot to tell you. A couple days later Don actually did try to accuse bro of attempted murder, but both Dolly and Bill went to bat for him. It turned out that Dolly herself had confiscated the sandwich and the errant half-chewed bite, wrapped them back up, sealed the package with duct tape, and put it in the back of the break room freezer with a note that said do not touch. So, when it was found that it had nothing spoiled or toxic as well as only Don's DNA, Don got hit with charges of false accusation and filing a false police report, double, and had to pay for the legal fees and the cost of the testing, so apparently the murder attempt charge got shut down hard. After that bro wasn't interested anymore and asked to never be bothered about Don again, with which Dolly, Bill, and the company lawyers happily agreed. This last bit might make this revenge a little more pro, but since Don did it to himself again, I'm not sure about that.